Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're joining us from. And I thank you for investing some of your time today for this introduction to SolidCAD Variant. Our agenda, we're going to start with some quick introductions. I'm going to then discuss some pressures that we're seeing in the manufacturing industry that are really driving the need for Variant. We'll follow that up with a live demonstration. And as Malika mentioned, we'll close off with a question and answer session. So feel free to plug them into the question chat as we're going through. Variant team members participating on the call today include myself. I'm Don Boresky. I'm the Industry Account Manager for Configuration Solutions at SolidCAD. Been in the Autodesk ecosystem for about 15 years, but my entire career has been focused on the effective application of technology to improve business processes and outcomes. In the background, addressing the questions that come up during the presentation will be Ryan Small. Ryan's our Director of Software Development, whose team built Variant and provides a range of custom development services for all of our clients. We also have Shannon Lundergan. Shannon's a technical consultant in our manufacturing division with extensive experience working on Autodesk manufacturing solutions, both in industry and with SolidCAD, and she's now our prime implementer for Variant. For those of you that are new to SolidCAD as an organization, we're a company with a 25-year history focused on helping organizations across many industries optimize their design and engineering workflows. And to support our efforts as an Autodesk Platinum partner, we have one of the largest professional services teams in the Autodesk ecosystem. And with this team, we're able to deliver a broad range of products and services to the manufacturing industry and use this experience to also enhance our own solutions, such as Variant that you're going to see. So let's now take a look at some industry pressures that manufacturers are experiencing that are directly related to the topic of the day. Manufacturers of configurable products have a whole pile of challenges to deal with, but three of them I think are of particular relevance for today. First is the pressure to reduce sales cycle times. Turning around quotes fast and minimizing the effort to do them helps you keep competitive and drive sales. However, at the same time, customers are becoming better educated, demanding mass customization solutions with upfront deliverables such as 3D models and complete drawing sets. And they want it now, or they're going to move on to a competitor. That leaves sales sometimes at the mercy of engineering, waiting for the details needed to complete a proposal, which risks losing the sale. Meanwhile, over in engineering, they've got the never-ending need for product evolution to stay ahead of the competition. The design teams are caught in routine find, copy design, pack and go, and edit tasks to create yet another variation of a product that's very similar but different to past designs. All the while, error rates across the organization need to be minimized because mistakes are costly. And whether that's sales quoting something that can't be built, or engineering missing a design standard, or just a mix-up in communication between the two teams. And unfortunately, the current challenges around hiring and retaining staff just increase the chances for rookie mistakes, especially without well-documented institutional knowledge and systems to make sure it's followed. Basically, organizations are under constant pressure to do more with less, which takes me to SolidCAD Variant. Variant is an intuitive CPQ tool for manufacturers to enable non-technical users, such as your sales team, dealer network, or even end customers, to configure products accurately on their own. Variant addresses each of the challenges that we spoke of. We enable sales or customers to work independently and accurately rather than having to wait for engineering. Engineering that isn't bothered to produce variations of standard products, they can focus on value-added evolution or truly custom projects. The products and processes are well documented, minimizing the disruption from new staff coming on board. Now, the concept of a configurator isn't new, and I'm going to guess that everyone on this call has gone to a car maker's website to build the last vehicle they purchased or the dream car they hope to get at some point in the future. Problem is, configurators have historically been complex and difficult to implement, limiting their application. One of the main obstacles has been that historically sales configurators are disconnected from engineering rules. This means the design rules established in engineering need to be recreated in a separate system supporting sales. This disconnect opens the door for errors. Whenever the same set of rules is documented in two places, you can be guaranteed there's going to be discrepancies, which will lead to errors. The complexity around building a rules engine means configurator software is complex, making it expensive to buy or build. And recreating the engineering rules of the sales configurator requires time and specialized expertise on the software and products, again, increases cost. In fact, just last weekend, I heard a story of a well-known manufacturer of semi-trailers working on a configurator implementation for several years, spending several millions of dollars, and it's still not done. And that's where Variant is different. Variant is different in that we bridge the gap between sales and engineering using the Autodesk Forge Design Automation API for Inventor. Forge enables Variant to directly leverage your iLogic code in Inventor models with a fully web-based application. Directly using iLogic code means one source of truth for your design rules, eliminating the effort to recreate them in a system for sales. It also ensures consistent design rules in both sales and engineering, reducing potential discrepancies and errors. And being web-based means it can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, on virtually any device without any specialized hardware or networking. All this makes the implementation of Variant uniquely straightforward, economical, and easily scalable as you grow. Now, because I've stressed the use of Forge so much and our opening video, I'd like to give you a brief introduction on that. In a nutshell, Forge is Autodesk's platform for developers to build solutions in the cloud. Autodesk is making huge investments in Forge, and it's probably not an exaggeration to say that it's the future of Autodesk. There are over 700 developers working on Autodesk's core Forge services and 1,000 Autodesk developers using it every day to create Autodesk's own web applications. SolidCAD is an Autodesk Forge certified system integrator, and our development team uses the same tool sets as Autodesk to create a variety of unique applications and integrations for our clients to extend the uses of their systems, tools, and data. Between applications built by Autodesk, their customers, and partners such as SolidCAD, Forge handles over 3 billion, and this, yes, that's billion with a B, API calls per month. Now, we could spend several hours talking about Forge itself, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll just close the section by saying Forge is the future of Autodesk. It's something you should pay attention to, and we'd be happy to discuss it with you further. Before I jump into the demo, one final vision I want to leave you with. As I think you'll see, Variant can stand on its own to help you manage the CPQ process for your products. But selling configurable products means, by definition, that each order is unique and needs to be managed individually. Managing unique orders with spreadsheets and emails opens up lots of opportunities for errors. With that in mind, using Forge, we've created integrations between Variant and Volt Pro to manage the models that Variant creates and any subsequent revisions that might be needed. Between Variant and Fusion 360 Manage PLM, so we can manage the workflows related to all those unique orders. And we can also create integrations to a variety of ERP systems to keep all your systems together. Again, like Forge, we can spend hours on these integrations themselves. The message to take away is that through Forge, your data can accurately and uninterruptedly flow through the entire manufacturing process. With that, I'm going to jump into take a look at Variant itself. We're going to look at both the sort of the sales-facing interface, and we'll look at some of the back-end system setup. Okay, well, I do a quick change on some screens. Is there any questions that came in we should maybe be looking at?
No questions just yet, but this would be a great chance if you have any questions so far to enter them either into the chat or the Q&A section. And like I mentioned, we'll go through all of those over at the end.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, just to double check, like everybody should see my Variant screen now, correct?
We can't see your Variant screen just yet.
Because I highlighted it, but I forgot to hit the share button itself.
Looks great now.
Okay, cool, thank you. So this, I've already done the login. There's multiple user types that that can interface with Variant. I'm just logging in as an administrator user, so I've got full access to do everything, and and give you the whole tour. Sort of on the left-hand side here, you can see the products. Now, typically you would maybe have different versions of your products or different models that you've got within your family. I've got a variety of different items that have been created, again, just to show the sort of the breadth of the solutions and the industries that a solution like Variant can support. Right? As long as you basically can design it in Inventor, we can bring it into Variant. So the one I'm going to work with today is the playset. I'm going to pick the playset, and I pick the gears, and I've now got the options that I can work with. So I've got a couple different selections. I can pick the number of bases. So I can pick the 1 or 2 bases. Now let's do it 2 base. And as you can see, once we pick 2, we get a number of different options that we can pick. So we can set up those dependencies. So certain selections will make available or not other selections. If I pick my left base, I've got 4 options here. I've got the climbing bars, rock wall, rope climb, and standard. And again, one of the key integrations is all of these options are coming directly from the Inventor model. So we created an Inventor, we've got the iLogic, we've got the parameter definitions, and those come directly across. We can, I'll show you in a bit, we can refine some of the appearance of those, but we don't have to define them from scratch. So I'm going to pick a rock wall, and on the left, let's pick a climbing bar, and let's do on the right, we'll throw a, we'll leave that, let's go down to the swing set, we'll do a 3-station swing set, and let's put a tunnel on the bridge between our 2 elements. Right? And we can pick whatever other options that we want. Once we've got our selections made, we generate the model. And this is now where Variant is taking advantage of Forge. Right? So Variant is the front end to collect the parameters, display what we've got. We're now packaging those up, sending them up through the Forge Design Automation API for Inventor. The model has already been loaded up into Forge, so it doesn't need to be sent up, just the actual parameters. Forge takes those parameters, plugs them into the model, does the chugging that it needs to, and now it sends back the result. So now you can see that we've got, and we can move the model around using the Forge viewer. So I've just got my left button, and now I can do the pan. If I want to move it around, I can use my right button. I can scroll in and out with the zoom, okay? And we can run as many other options as we might want, just do multiple configurations. But once we're done, if this is the one that we want, we can hit the generate downloads. While that's out working, just a little more on the interface. So down at the bottom, we've got some tools that we can work with. We can, for instance, get some measurements. We'll give our joint to there. We can get some sectioning. So whatever item you want to do on multiple different planes, we can see how that section looks. We can also look at individual components, kind of look at that bill of materials, that browser, so we can pick specific items, see where those are highlighting, again, driven directly out of the Inventor model. So I'm not having to recreate this in Variant. It's just pulled out using that same information. Oh, zoom in a little too far, sorry. There we go, that's better. If we want to pick an item and see what's behind it, we can also right-click that on that. We'll hide that, and now we can see what's behind that bridge. We can see the walkway going across there. And we'll show all those objects again. Okay. And that should be coming back very shortly. We're just finishing up, cleaning up that, cleaning up the model so that we can now present the results. So now we're in the specification section. We can see what all the items were that we picked. What are the parameters for that model that we've actually got? And we've got a number of downloads that we can work with. So for instance, if we want, This is an option you can set whether you want to allow a quote to be viewable or whether you just want to submit a request for quote. We can view the quote, and based on the pricing rules that are built right into iLogic, so again, the same model, we're not dealing with multiple components, right? That can give us the price, and we can allow that quote to be downloaded if we want. We'll just do quick, comes down quickly as a PDF. Open that up. And so now it drops in a just a simple view of the actual model that we've created. Some prepared for, details on the pricing and acceptance, and then a couple more views. So if you want to make that available to clients so that, yep, this is exactly what they want, they sign that off, they send it into you, and away you go. We've also got different formats. We talked about customers needing actual file formats, deliverables to fit into their workflows, multiple formats that we can allow to download, or even just a simple PDF of the drawing set that again has been created in Inventor, and can be, you know, with all the scaling. And again, you can drive with iLogic, you can drive the rules for your drawing so that if you've got, say, an item that can be long or short, you can scale those so that it appears properly on the drawing. Again, just using iLogic, not having to manage multiple systems to be able to do that. The last one will be the order configuration. Again, this, depending on your option, you can either do a order configuration or just an RFQ. And we'll do, so it picks up my information that I use to log in, and I will say to Winnipeg, which happens to be where I am, if anybody knows where that is. And we will submit the order. That's now been submitted, and an email will come into whoever your designated contact is. We can also see the orders once we get into the other asset management section. And that's really the kind of the highlight of going through that workflow. We define the configuration, as many as we want. Once we've got that done, we can generate the downloads, show the ones that are available, and go from there. So that's kind of the front end of the variant experience. So let's go take a look at switch over to some of the back end. We'll flip into the asset manager. So if we look, I'll just quickly go into the orders and RFQ section. And again, this would be an interface that an administrator would have access to. You wouldn't have a client wouldn't have access to this, for instance, right? So here's the one that I just submitted for the play set. Right? I can delete that if I don't need it anymore, or I can go and download it, and then that will bring down the actual Inventor model with the, it'll bring down a zip file of that configuration that I've created that I can now bring in. And if I need to do some final touch-ups, or if there's some customization that needs to be done beyond what the configuration supports, we can do that. And again, as we talked about earlier, rather than bringing it down here, we can integrate Variant to send this configuration directly to Vault, or directly to Fusion 360 Manage, so that workflow is managed accordingly. For orders that aren't done, we still see a history. We track analytics of the configurations that are created and who's done them. Each user has a login, and we can see which ones are being used. So clearly, there's a high demand and use of the playset, and less on the Hinkle and the railing. So you can start managing and understanding what your clients are interested in, what configurations they're driving, and focusing on that. We can also, let's go back to the asset manager again. A little bit of background on the products. So this is really the back end setup, right? And how we take advantage of Inventor. So again, let's go take a look at that playset. So we've got a simple playset name. We can create that, and the key point is down here, the file, the playset viewable.zip. So that's just, if you know Pack and Go, we're basically creating a Pack and Go zip file of your Inventor model. That gets uploaded, and that's where all that iLogic code and all those parameter options come in and are sent up to Forge. We take care of getting that up to Forge, so it resides there when it needs to be accessed by the configuration. Now, because of the way Forge works, sometimes we need to do a little bit of work on some of the parameters themselves. I'm just going to go into the edit parameter section. There we go. And a couple key things here. We commented on some of the parameters and settings. So in this model, and again, if you haven't built your models with configuration in mind, some of the parameter names and descriptions may or not be as user-friendly for the end user as you might want. So in this case, for instance, bridge visibility is the actual parameter name that came from the model. What we decided to make it a little more understandable for the user is the number of bases. Right? So bridge visibility comes in, number of bases is the display name that we set up. That's a true or false. And if it's true, it's a 2 base. If it's false, it's a 1 base. Okay. So some little refinement that we can make. We also talked about the dependencies. You'll notice that, go back up. So the number of bases is always on, right? That's a question that I'm going to ask in every configuration. But some of the ones, like if we go down to the bridge, so the right base, for instance, well, the right base is not always on. The right base will be visible only if bridge visibility, so remember the number of bases, the number of bases is 2, bridge visibility is true. That means I'm going to display that right front and give me the option to enter those as, it's going to default to rock wall, but it'll go, the options will be the climb, rock wall, standard, and climbing bars again as brought in from the base model. And that pretty much addresses the highlights of the setting the parameters. Again, we can get pretty as detailed as you need to. We want to keep it simple, but we can get as detailed as we need to, depending on the complexity of your solutions. We also have some basic settings to make Variant look the way you would want it to look. So we talked about the company name, the administrator, and the RFQ emails. You can have as many people as you need in there. We talked about every user, or you need to have an account. You can set it up for registration approval to make it automatic or not. So if some of our customers have it set up, anybody can go in, create an account, and it'll be automatically approved. They can create the configurations. Others want to have much tighter control over who can have an account, who can enter the information, and so that has to go through an approval process. We can add the logos, define the appearance and colors, and to make, again, the experience look the way you want it to look. And also we can, so this is the main experience, right? But we can also have this integrated directly into your website. We have several customers that take each individual model, and that shows up as a separate selection, individual selection directly on their website. So it's all integrated with with all that same experience. Okay, I think that covers the highlights. Is there, or actually, let me go back quickly. I'm just going to go switch my screen once more. Just going to go back to here quickly. Nope. And do one more quick recap. Just to kind of close off, and you want to go back to that industry industry pressures, right? Because we've talked about the challenges that that manufacturers deal with, and we think that Variant really addresses each of those, right? We enable that independent and efficient sales team or end customer, which helps drive more sales cycles and increases revenue. We free up engineering from the busy work of mass customization, leaving more time for value-added product evolution and really truly custom projects. And extending that one set of design standards through the organization streamlines the implementation of Variant and reduces errors associated with new staff and onboarding. And effectively, we enable manufacturers to do less with more, or do more with less, right? Increasing your revenue and reducing your costs. And with that, Malika, let's turn it over to the questions. I've also put my contact information on that last slide. So if there's anything you don't feel comfortable asking now, or if another question comes up later on, please absolutely feel free to reach out. Would welcome the chance to talk.
Wonderful. So there is one question in the chat. I know, Ryan, you have been answering, but maybe we could just do it out loud as well for everyone else. So the question was, how does Variant know what parameters to pull out of the model? Ryan, did you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So basically what happens is when you go through the process to add product in Variant, we inspect the list of Inventor user parameters that are marked as key, and any of those get pulled into the Variant UI to configure. Now, once you've got them in Variant, you can obviously expand on the options that are available for the parameters. And you can also include additional parameters. Like if you went through and uploaded and you realized, oh shoot, I forgot to key a certain parameter and we didn't auto extract it, you can always just manually add the parameter in to make it configurable.
Great. And then another question here was, does the site work on mobile phones?
Sure, I'll answer this one. So the answer is partially yes. It's going to change to a full yes later next month. So Variant right now today works on really any web browser, including mobile. The only caveat there is that just at present it's not using a mobile UI. So typically when you visit a website on a mobile device, the layout is kind of changed to support a smaller form factor. So one of the projects we're working on right now is to actually implement a UI which will support mobile. So we're expecting to bring that online later in July.
Awesome. A couple more questions here. One of them is, thank you for the presentation. So I thank you for the great presentation. Can Variant be embedded into our own website? So I guess the company's website.
Yes, I mentioned that. So it can, and actually, I'm just going to see if I can quickly pull up. Which screen am I sharing yet? Let's do this. We actually have an example of. I'm going to go to, or just so I don't have to change my screen. Forgive me while I look away. So this is an example of an organization that we work with, MK North America. They happen to build conveyors. And you'll see that, so the interface should look very similar. They've used the models, we bring it in. So they have each individual, change the, let's move that one. Yeah, here we go. So we just use basically an iframe connection, and that allows us to embed the variant image for that particular product, or the variant configuration for that particular product, right on your website. So we can use the variant interface if you want, or you can set up individual models on your website as you see fit. Ryan, anything that should be added to that question?
No, I don't think so, Don. You answered it well.
Cool, thank you.
All right, and one last question we have here. Can Variant work with numeric parameters such as length or width?
Yes, good question, and I'm glad that got asked. Here, let me just switch this back. I'm going to show a different model that we've got. And it's essentially the same process, right? Are you seeing my variant screen, Malika? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, So let's go back to here. Let's pick this utility trailer as an example. So it's the same thing. We've pulled the parameters directly out of Inventor. So in this case, we've got a couple mixed parameters. We can do do we want it off-road or on-road? Do we want it heavy duty or light duty? And in this case, we can use a numeric value of where we want this particular fence to be. So we can define that value, defaults to 700, and then with invariant, we can say what those limits are. And that's part of what we do in that parameter setup screen that I showed earlier. We can say we want it to be 700, and so I can, if I put in 1100, it's going to say, sorry, can't do that. Give me a valid parameter. So let's say it's 550, right? And then it'll run the number as well. So it can be specific selections, or it can be sort of infinite numeric values that we can put parameters on to make sure or values and limits on to make sure that the model is working properly.
Awesome. And I do see one more question that came up. It says, can the model invariant reference a spreadsheet for pricing?
Yeah, good question. Essentially, yes. We talked about the Inventor model, or the package, basically taking the Inventor model, doing a pack and go, and uploading it to Variant. Same thing would apply with any related files. So let's say you had in fact, I was just talking with an organization yesterday about this, where they have standard commodity prices that change maybe once a month, right? And so we can build a spreadsheet with those those commodity prices that the Inventor model would reference. So when it comes time to update those pricing, we just update the spreadsheet, do a new pack and go with that updated spreadsheet, put that into Variant, and now we've got the updated pricing. We don't have to go through actually going right into the iLogic code and the Inventor model and having an Inventor specific person updated pricing. As long as those standards can be in a spreadsheet, we can keep that separate and standard.
I'll maybe, Don, if I can, I'll just maybe add to what you said. Everything you said is correct, and we've got customers doing exactly what you said. One thing, though, that is on our feature backlog is to be able to share the spreadsheet across multiple models, so that when it does come time that you update your spreadsheet with your new pricing, you don't have to put a copy of that spreadsheet in each zip file for each different model, so that they could tie to kind of like a common place, so that you'd have like one upload. So there's no ETA on that, but it is something that is on the feature backlog.
Excellent, thank you.
Another question from the chat here. What is the implementation process for Variant?
So it's actually pretty straightforward. Again, I'm going to say, frankly, the hard work, the heavy lifting, that's done in iLogic and Inventor. And once you have that, it's really a matter of taking that model, uploading it, and doing some of that parameter work in the background. I've had organizations that we've been able to take their model and literally with their iLogic put in a matter of hours, we're able to get it up and functioning in Variant. So typically the process would be a few days of training around Variant the administration module, setting up those parameters, helping you get that first model set up. I've used the term variantinized, helping it get it variantinized with your pricing and price rules and things, getting that into Variant, and then getting that first one, so you've got that under your belt, and then you're off to the races from there. Now, we're happy to help however makes sense. We've had organizations that have said, I got way too many models and not enough time. So they've engaged us to do all the work around getting it uploaded into Variant and getting the parameters set up. So we're happy to work with you as you need to. But again, everything's web-based. Startup is very straightforward. No software to install, no networking to be configured. Take the model, upload it, fix up some parameters, and we're ready to go.
All right. right, and I think just one last question here. I know, Shannon, that you already spoke to it. Just if you wanted to add anything else, is the question about, do you find that most customers already have models set up with iLogic rules to drive this web configurator, or their setup process within Inventor to get the models to work with this? Did you want to add anything to that, Shannon?
Not really add. I can just sort of relay my answer. So some customers do have the iLogic already built in. The model is bulletproof. It's great. It's good to go. There's a couple of minor steps, like Don mentioned with pricing, that we just implement into the model on the Inventor side. And then it's a pretty straightforward upload. Some customers come in and they don't have iLogic ready to go, which is also totally fine. So we can, as Don said, we'd work with you and figure out what you guys need and what sort of support and guidance. iLogic is very simple to learn. You don't have to be a programmer. So we can build in some basic rules and your model can be configurable, with just a little bit of training and ready to go in variant. So either way, we can work with that for sure.
And just again, to expand as that Autodesk Platinum partner, we have multiple resources that are comfortable with iLogic, and well, not just comfortable, but very experienced in depth with iLogic. So if you need just some training to figure it out on your own, we can do that. If you want to use us to build some of those first ones to get you started and then take it over from there, happy to fulfill whatever role makes the most sense.
I noticed there were a couple more questions here. I think we still have a little bit of time. We can go through them. Another one says, could you please describe what the model needs to have for iLogic and parameters in order for variant to work?
Shannon, Ryan, can you maybe take that one? I've got an idea, but I think you're going to be more concise on it.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So it's asking to describe what the model needs to have for iLogic and what parameters it needs in order for variant to work.
Well, I'll maybe take a best stab at answering that. I mean, Variant is really built in such a way that it's really using iLogic in the back end, right? It just happens to be in the cloud. So from that standpoint, to author your models for Inventor on the desktop, you would just author them according to the parameters and your rules you need for the design intelligence, and we just basically build on that foundation. So it's not so much that you're building your models per se to work in Variant. You're building your models in a way that is going to give you the design intelligence on the desktop, and then when it goes into Variant, we just leverage what you've already built.
And I think that's sort of extend to, as I mentioned earlier, we had a client that that had a model very well laid out, and as I say, within an hour, a couple tweaks, we were able to get that in and running. Other organizations, have no iLogic built, but again, I guess iLogic itself isn't even really a requirement. If your model can be completely parameter driven and it's all key parameters, then that's all we need. We'll bring it in and we'll use the values that are in the model and drive it accordingly. And I guess I would make that offer that if anybody out there has a model with they've got iLogic, it's functioning on the desktop, love to take a look at it with you. Maybe set up a call with Shannon. We can take a look and see what how much of anything needs to be done. We can bring it in and show you operating directly in Variant.
All right, the other question that we have here, and last call as well, if anyone else wants to throw questions in after this one, but okay, we do have a couple. So do the outputs from Variant include full detail packages with manufacturing drawings, or the outputs just used for simplified quote representations?
I'm gonna take a shot at that one, and then Ryan and Shannon, you can correct me. Because Inventor is the basis, whatever drawings you have created in Inventor will come up and you want to make available to Variant, or they're in that package, will get generated accordingly. So if you want a simple quote level kind of drawing that is available to anybody that's using the interface, then we would set that up in Inventor. If you want a very detailed manufacturing driven model or drawing that can be driven by Inventor, and you would do that off the desktop, that same drawing can be driven through variant. So if you had somebody, say an internal salesperson, and you wanted to be able to have them go through the configuration and generate those detailed models without having to bug engineering, that's possible as well. So it's kind of either way, depending on the workflow that makes sense for your organization.
Sorry, Don, I actually need to jump in here. Your presentation's been 100% bang on so far, but this is the Achilles heel of the answer. So let me just clarify. So at present today, Variant is built where it only updates the top level quote drawing. When you actually add the product to Variant, you specify what your configurable model is, as well as the drawing that represents that configuration. And that's the drawing that gets updated and opened or open and updated, right, to reflect what you're doing. We have had this request as well as on the feature pipeline. It's not actually that difficult of a task because we basically just have to scan the directory structure to find any of the related drawings that are, that are in that data set. It's not something we've built out yet. So to answer the question today, it's just doing the top level drawing. It is on our feature wish list to add to do all of the drawings so that you can get that sort of full manufacturable, data set where all the drawings would be updated, and not just the top level one.
Thank you for the clarification.
And then, yeah, it looks like this question here is just a follow-up to the question before that one regarding iLogic and parameters. It says, we have models that are driven with forms in iLogic. Would that be easy to import to Variant?
Shannon, do you want to take a shot at that one then? Given my track record?
I think Shannon, yeah. Oh, there you are. I can answer. Or you're unmuted now, so go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
So right now the forms that are used in iLogic you're not going to use those in Variant. But what Don showed when you're manipulating the visibility and the limits on the parameters from that asset manager from the admin side, that's where you're going to sort of create your form. So if you have a form already built, it's fine if it's there, but there is no need to have that form to use in Variant. You will effectively be creating the form on the Variant side with that sort of simple user interface that Don showed us earlier.
And again, that's the example where if you have a model, if you have forms and it's driving your model, then yeah, that would love the opportunity to set up a call, have Shannon take a peek at it, and we can see what would be required to get that into Variant. But if it's a functioning model with forms in general, it should be a pretty easy task to do.